Alright, let's just cut right to the chase. If you've played the Artorias of the Abyss expansion, you already know the absolute wall of pain we're talking about today. Manus, Father of the Abyss. He's cryptic, he's tragic, and he's easily one of the most punishing figures in all of gaming history. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly who this monstrous entity actually is, why he dragged an innocent princess into the dark, and, maybe most importantly, how you can actually survive fighting the guy.
To really understand Manus, we've got to look at the fall of Ulasil. And honestly, Hawkeye Goff hits the nail on the head with this haunting line. They awoke that thing themselves and drove it mad. One's demise is always one's own making. I just absolutely love how this sets the stage. It tells us right out of the gate that the Abyss, it wasn't some random invading force. The destruction of Ulasil was a total inside job. It's a tragedy born purely from human greed and curiosity. The citizens literally dug up their own doom.
So that brings us to the central mystery of our explainer. Who or what exactly is this primeval beast, and what kicked this whole mess off? When you first step into the DLC, Elizabeth, the mushroom, gives you one main job: rescue Princess Dusk, who just got snatched away by some terrifying primeval human. But why her? What does he want with her? Well, to answer that, we've got to dig deep into the ancient lore. The leading theory championed by the community, and, characters like Koth, is pretty mind-blowing. Way back at the dawn of the Age of Fire, while the Great Lords were claiming their 3 souls, the furtive pygmy found a 4th, entirely unique soul, the Dark Soul. The pygmy then split this soul to literally create humanity. The heavy implication here is that Manus isn't just some human, he might very well be the primeval human. We're talking about the furtive pygmy himself, the literal ancestor of all mankind. Crazy, right?
And this isn't just wild speculation. It's backed right up by the soul of Manus itself. If you read the item description, it says, "This extraordinary soul is a viscous, lukewarm lump of gentle humanity." It flat out confirms that ancient Manus was, without a doubt, once human. He wasn't always this roaring, terrifying demon. He was a man. But he became the father of the Abyss only after his humanity went completely wild. Something incredibly dark pushed him over the edge.
So, chronologically, this catastrophe unfolds a bit like this. Back in the Ancient Age, the pygmy claims the Dark Soul. Fast forward centuries later, and a toothy primeval serpent, which, let's be real, is almost certainly Cathay or Frampt, deceives the people of Ulasil into seeking dark sorceries. So what do these townsfolk do? They go and upturn the grave of the primeval man. And they don't just wake him up. The dungeon layouts show us they tortured him to the absolute brink of madness. But the final straw? Hour 0? They stole his precious pendant. That single act is what caused his gentle humanity to erupt into the raging, corrupting force of the Abyss. Which circles us right back to our big question. If he's this ancient, tortured guy raging against the people who wronged him, why abduct Princess Dusk? She was completely innocent in all this. And here is the weirdest, most crucial detail. He doesn't actually kill her. He just holds her captive at the very bottom of the chasm of the Abyss, completely unharmed. When you finally defeat him, she's just lying there, totally safe.
The game doesn't exactly hand us a direct answer, so let's look at what the community thinks. First up is the bait. Dusk herself mentions sensing his emotions, describing it as a wrenching nostalgia, an object of obsession. Manus reaches through time to grab you because you have his broken pendant. So kidnapping Dusk might have just been a clever way to lure you and his precious item directly to his lair. Then there's the Adam and Eve theory. If Manus is the very first man, some folks theorize he was seeking his Eve in a lost paradise, with the Abyss basically representing original sin. And finally, my absolute favorite, the arcade classic. Think about it. An oversized, hairy beast kidnaps a princess, and you have to descend to the bottom of the world to save her. Yeah, there's a really strong case to be made that this entire DLC is just a very dark, incredibly stressful homage to Donkey Kong.
Okay, but enough about the lore for a second. Let's talk about the absolute nightmare of actually fighting this guy. Just consider this staggering number, 6,665. That is his base health pool on New Game. To put that into perspective, that is literally more health than Black Dragon Calamite. You are going toe-to-toe with a wildly aggressive, flailing beast who somehow has more physical endurance than a literal ancient dragon. No way around it, that's just terrifying.
The hard truth is, knowing the lore isn't going to save you when you drop into the chasm of the Abyss. You need a solid game plan. So, let's shift gears into a tactical briefing on how to actually survive the Father of the Abyss, because I promise you, he will test every single skill you've learned up to this point in the game.
His moveset is just relentless. While his regular physical attacks are brutal enough, the real danger is his 6-hit frenzy. You'll know it's coming because he lets out this massive roar right before unleashing a rapid-fire combo that will entirely drain your stamina and crush you if you get caught in it. But oh man, the real fight begins when he drops to 60% health. That's when the dark magic comes out. You've got to watch the skies for Dark Rain, be ready for Dark Wave, which is essentially a magic shotgun blast that can instant kill you up close, and then there's Dark Circle, which spawns a massive ring of orbs that violently collapse in on you.
So how do you even counter all that? Well, you've got two defensive strategies that you absolutely must employ at the exact same time. For his physical slams, you need incredibly high stability. We're talking Havel's Great Shield or the Great Shield of Artorias, and you have to manage your stamina perfectly between his weird delayed hits. But for the magic, you are going to need the Silver Pendant, a hidden little item from Olisile Township. When he casts his dark magic, you spam that pendant to create a force field that deflects the orbs. Trying to dodge the magic, especially that dark wave, is just incredibly risky. The pendant is your absolute best friend here.
But hey, good news, you don't actually have to fight him alone. There's this highly specific, completely hidden sequence to recruit Sif the Great Grey Wolf to help you out. First, you've got to find an illusory floor in the Ulasil dungeons. Then, you follow the ghostly apparition of Elvina the cat. Next, you break a second illusory wall to find an adorable puppy version of Sif trapped by humanity phantoms. Save him and he becomes available as a summon. But here's the catch. His summon sign isn't safely sitting outside the fog gate. No, it's hidden inside the actual boss arena, blending right into the dark rocks while Manus is actively trying to flatten you into a pancake.
Because of how unbelievably brutal this fight is, the community has developed a very specific coping mechanism. I'm talking about sheer, unadulterated frustration leading to some incredibly inventive, rage-fueled nicknames on the forums. Honestly, when you're on your 20th attempt and you get caught by that 6-hit frenzy for the millionth time, calling him Anus Farter of the Abyss feels like a completely justified reaction.
Let's quickly summarize why he's the community's ultimate nightmare. It's not just the massive health pool, it's those agonizingly delayed hand slams that bait you into dodging a split second too early. It's the magic that completely bypasses your standard physical shields. It's frantically searching for Sif's summon sign in the pitch black. And let's be totally honest, even when you do summon Sif, the lore-accurate cowardly dog AI often keeps him safely out of melee range, barely holding any of Manus' aggro. The fight is so demanding that a famous fog gate cheese exists, where completely exhausted, desperate players will literally just stand outside the arena and shoot him with a 50-range bow to bypass the whole ordeal.
But if you do face him head-on and you finally manage to strike him down, it leaves you with a pretty haunting realization. Manus wasn't some alien invader. His soul is just a gentle lump of humanity. Those horrifying bloated heads of the townsfolk, that's just humanity gone wild. So the big question you should take away from this is, when we fight the Father of the Abyss, are we really fighting a monster, or are we just looking into a very dark mirror? The true villain of Olisile wasn't the beast. It was the human greed that created him in the first place. Think about that next time you step through the fog gate. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you in the next one.